Hi, everybody. It's Erica from In the Company of Cards. Welcome if you're new. Welcome back if you've been here for a bit. Um, I just wanted to say, first off, thank you for those who watched and then commented on my Sunday conversation yesterday with Teresa Reed. She is a very well-known tarotist and astrologer and has lots of books out. And she was a huge get, and I really enjoyed my conversation with her. So if you didn't get a chance to watch it, it's the last video up. Also, I just want to remind you, those of you who are watching, and most of you don't need reminding, but these are not interviews per se that I do on Sundays. They are conversations, which means that there's back and forth. So if you feel that either I or my guest does not get enough airtime, I always put a link to contact information for my guests, so you can hear from them to your heart's content through their content. So anyway, we had a great time yesterday, and I hope you will go watch it. Also, we are like 24 people away from 32,000 subscribers. So that's really exciting. And so please do like, share, and subscribe if you've not done that already. So I wanted to go back to a couple of questions that I've looked at before in light of what's going on currently, as well as look at something that we've not looked at yet. So I don't think this will be very long, but you never know. So I just read Joy Reid's Substack. Substack is a platform for writers and podcasters, etc. You can find me on Substack under In the Company of Cards, where I write every Wednesday. Well, Joy Reid's there doing podcasting and also writing, and she's a terrific writer. But she wrote about a recent election that just happened. I feel like over the weekend, and I'm curious as to whether it will have any effect on the elections that are coming up tomorrow in most specifically in Florida, but also in Wisconsin. So I want to give those three elections, two in Florida, one in Wisconsin, another look. But I just wanted to, for those of you who are not inclined to read on Substack, I just wanted to give you the short version of what Joy had to say and some thoughts on why I think it's important. So Louisiana has a governor. He is a Republican. Um, Friend of you know who, because what Republican is not. And he was not up for reelection or anything, but he had four amendments to the state constitution that were up for vote. And so just a little bit about that state. Got a 32% Black population. So keep that in mind that population is only 32%. And also, these kinds of elections have notoriously low turnouts. Uh, but something interesting happened. First, on the subject of turnout, they were expecting to have a 12% turnout on these amendment questions. Again, there were four of them. And instead of a 12% turnout, which is bad, I mean, 12%, they had a 21% turnout. Now, granted, 21%, that's not great either, but it's a lot more than they thought were going to turn out. So that's one sign. The other thing that's interesting is that two-thirds of the voters rejected all four amendments to the Louisiana Constitution. And remember, these are amendments that were proposed by the Republican governor, Jeff Landry. So what does that mean? Well, first off, let's look at what the amendments were. I'm not necessarily going in order of their number, but so amendment number 3 would have sent more minors to adult prisons for longer sentences. And we know that even though 32% of Louisianans are Black, you can imagine that the proportion skyrockets when we're talking about who gets put in jail and imprisoned. So voters roundly rejected that. They do not want more Black kids going to anybody's jail, and certainly not to adult jails for longer sentences. So, that's one for our side. That's great. And that was number three. Um, number one would have allowed the formation of special courts in Louisiana, special courts that would have jurisdiction outside current parishes and judicial districts. They call their areas parishes, right? Now, what's that about? Remember that 47's people love to snatch people off the streets and then send them, whatever, regardless of whatever state they're in, they're being sent to Louisiana. And Louisiana is because it's a Trump-friendly state, and has Trump-friendly judges. The goal is to have more Trump-friendly judges who can, get these people um, jailed or extradited or expelled from the country or whatever it is. The voters said no on that. We don't want these special courts, that will be serving at 47's bidding. So that was a no. So that's two for our side. Um, let's see. Oh, another one, this was number four, would have adjusted rules for special elections to fill vacant judgeships, especially the Louisiana Supreme Court. So again, it would have been an opportunity to stack the courts in 47's favor. The voters said no on that one. So that's three for our side. The second one is the second amendment, proposed amendment that failed. Let me just add again, was the one that Joy Reid spent the most time talking about in her article. And that would have lowered the maximum tax rate and restricted annual state budget increases. It would have made it also more difficult to enact new tax breaks for the average person. So this would have been a financial windfall for both Landry and legislators. And what he did was he tied that particular amendment proposal to a stipend for teachers. There was a $2,000 one and a $1,000 one. And I am sure that teachers in Louisiana don't make any kind of money, because no teachers anywhere make any kind of money, just saying. But anyway, didn't matter. They dangled that little stipend in front of people, and the voters still said no. So why is this important? Well, it's important when we have elections where 47 doesn't win the day. Now, let's go away from Louisiana and move to Wisconsin. Wisconsin tomorrow, remember, has a Supreme Court election for a Supreme Court justice. And Susan Crawford is the Democrat, Brad Schimmel is the Republican. Both of those candidates have raised a ton of money. So, I'll say that. We also know that, Musk has put his thumb on the scale in Wisconsin. And of course, there was a judge. Well, someone went to court and said Musk should not be allowed to be giving out these $2 million checks, and then whatever else people are getting, $100 for doing whatever. That should be illegal. If you can't give people waiting in line to vote a water bottle, How can you give them $1 million? But, different rules for different people, right? And sure enough, there's a judge in Wisconsin who said, no, it's fine. Musk can give that money out. So I want to know whether the deck is stacked. Well, the deck is already stacked. Um, and I made some notes on this. Um, well, no, that's on the Florida things that I made notes. But on this Wisconsin thing, there's a lot of money on both sides. So I'll just say that. Uh, and the abortion issue is also on the table. Um, I mean, even though Roe's been outlawed and all of that, Wisconsin, the Republicans want to make the laws against women even more draconian than they are. So, what I saw when I looked last time was that the Republican Brad Schimmel would win, that Susan Crawford would lose. But I want to look at it again. I'm always telling you that energy is mutable, and it's not to be shady or anything. It's just to say, tell you the truth that energy is mutable and that things can change on a dime. If you've not seen the movie The Butterfly Effect, go watch The Butterfly Effect. It's a great movie. And it talks about, things changing on a dime and domino theory and all of that. But anyway, uh, it's interesting to me that Louisiana, it was a rout in Louisiana. I mean, that guy, that governor, Landry, had his hat handed to him by the voters. And that was only 20% of the population. Imagine if everybody else had come out. So I would like to look first at this Wisconsin race. Will that Louisiana situation play any part in shifting the energy of what happens in that race, which again, I have seen going to the Republican Brad Schimmel. So let's look. I'm going to pull 3 cards for Schimmel, and then I'm going to pull 3 cards for Susan Crawford, the Democrat. Okay, so here we go. Okay, so these are 3 cards for this Brad Schimmel, who is running for um, justice on the Supreme Court of Wisconsin. He is a Republican. This is Schimmel. And then in the same race, the Democrat is Susan Crawford. Just want to see, has the energy shifted in that race? Well, this is really interesting. Now, uh, hmm, because nobody has amazing cards, but again, one has worse cards than the other. This is Brad Schimmel, the Republican. Mice, scales, child. Yeah, he actually is anxious. He's worried about this race. So that's why you bring in the big guns like the muskrat to tip the scales, right? By offering people money. And that could turn the tide for him. Not turn the tide. It could keep him winning because I already saw that he was going to win. But I think that his margin may be less than he hopes that it will be, less than it might have been. Uh, Susan Crawford, we've got 47, the scythe, and the coffin. So I mean, I wish I could tell you that Susan Crawford, the Democrat, will win in Wisconsin. I don't see it. I don't see it. Again, there's a lot of money on both sides, but I see Brad Schimmel winning. Sorry. Okay. And then I wanted to look again at Florida. So, just some interesting statistics first. First off, Let's look at the sixth district. Uh, the sixth district is Walz's seat. And what's important to know is the percentages, just like I told you in Louisiana. Okay, 49% of the sixth district, because this was Mike Waltz's district, 49% are Republican, 26% are Democrat, which means that in order um, for the Democrat to win, uh, I mean, he'd have to flip a lot of Republicans his way. Now, let me just say that already, there's early voting in Florida, and the turnout so far has been really low, 17.5. I mean, even Louisiana wasn't that low. So far, the mail-in ballot, I guess, is 17.5. What does that mean? It means that each candidate has to turn out 4 out of 5 registered voters. That's a lot because apparently only 1 out of 5 has already voted. So this looks like quite an uphill thing. The other thing is uh, other complications which are interesting. So the people running are Randy Fine, he's the Republican. Josh Weil is the Democrat. But Josh Weil's got some issues. The Democrats got some issues. First off, he is considered a progressive, politically progressive. He's a teacher. That's lovely. He's a teacher. He's also a Muslim, and that could color, so to speak, people's perception of him. Raised Jewish, but convert. He's a convert to Islam. And he has hired a firm, but it's a firm that does this kind of thing for lots and lots of candidates on both sides that do ads. And there was an ad for that was run for him. He had nothing to do with it, but it was run for him, and it showed the image of David Hogg. Now, David Hogg was the student from Parkland who has become co-head of the Democratic Party. That very impressive young man. Uh, and so he had something to say about it. He says, like, I don't know why my image is in there because I am not putting my finger on the scale of any election at all. So I don't know what that's about. But the other person who apparently was shown in an ad for the Democrat, and this is Josh Weil, sorry, brain fart, was AOC. AOC came out and said, I don't know why my image was in that commercial, but I did not give my permission. I did not give my approval. I am not taking a stand in any race so far. So again, he didn't do it, Josh Weil, but the organization that was doing ads for him did it. And so he's kind of in a lot of hot water with his own party. Uh, Again, remember that he's in a district that is 49% Republican to 26% Democrat. So just as I saw the Republican winning the Wisconsin Supreme Court seat, I saw the Republican Randy Fine winning that Florida sixth district race. This is for the House of Representatives. So I'm going to look one more time and see whether that's changed at all. This is my last look at this election. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to pull 3 cards for the Republican, Randy Fine, and 3 cards for the Democrat, Josh Weil. Interesting. So for the Republican Randy Fine, I have the Sun, which is considered the best card in the deck. I have the Young Woman, and I have the Book. Um, for Josh Wilde, the Democrat, I have the Stork, the Whip, and the Clover. Uh, I'm going to say that this even with that big split of 49% Republican to 26% Democrat, I do think that um, Josh Fine will get some people crossing over who are not happy with 47. Uh, will it be enough to pull him over the line? I don't think so. I think he will have a better showing, positive improvement, a better showing uh, than anticipated. But with the Sun in Randy Fine's column or row, I think that the Republican will win. Now, there's another race, remember, and this is for Florida's first district, first congressional district, and this was Matt Gaetz's seat. And that district, in terms of the split, is 55% Republican to 26% Democrat. So again, there would need to be crossover. Um, there would need to be some sort of Louisiana style miracle for the Democrat to pull this out. The thing is that the Republican who's running, he has been the chief financial officer of Florida. I think he currently is that. But he's like a political boss type of guy. I don't know how well liked he is. He's running against Gay Valamont, and Gay Valamont is a woman, and she is anti-gun, right? She's pro-gun control. Now, a lot of money is being poured into that race to the point where Jimmy Patronis is really, really worried. He is really worried that Gay Valamont may be able to overtake him. And remember, it's not going to be good enough for Gay Valamont to come in a close second, because that's only horse races, right? If she doesn't win, then we're in the same boat that we were in when Gates was in there. So, um, will it be enough for her to pull it out? Let's see, especially in light of what happened with Louisiana. Okay, so this will be for Jimmy Patronis, the career politician, the boss, the chief financial officer of Florida, the Republican. And this is for Gay Valamont, the gun control activist, the woman running against him, the Democrat. So this is for the Republican, Jimmy Patronis, and this is for the Democrat, Gay Valamont. All right. So for Jimmy Patronis, we have the Fox, the Star, and interestingly, the Book. Uh, you know, don't love the Fox. Well, I don't love any of these cards, although I'm sure he would love them because it makes me think that there will be funny business, election tampering, that Fox. And this is sort of like computer stuff that we won't know about. And then for Gay Valamont, we have the Whip, the Bear, and the Tree. I think she will have fought really, really hard, but I think she'll be overwhelmed by 47's machine. Uh, the Tree, not sure. The Tree is the card for health. It's also a slow card. It makes me wonder whether the race will be close and we have to wait for the returns to come in. But I do think there will be funny business on the side, on the part of Jimmy Patronus's machine, which is 47's machine, entertainment purposes only. And I think in the end, he too will win. So I hope I'm wrong. And I have to say, we have a silver lining, which is what happened with those constitutional amendments in Louisiana being voted down, all four of them roundly rejected. So we'll take the wins when we can get them and hopefully live to fight another day. Okay. Um, Something else I thought I would look at. Let's go over the ocean, shall we, to France. Because the Nazi-like entertainment purposes only, Marine Le Pen of the far right party in France has been sentenced for embezzlement. The accusation, or she was convicted of embezzling, which is stealing money from EU funds. Nice, right? And so she got a 4-year sentence. 2 years are suspended. I don't know what that means for the other 2 years. Like, I don't know if she's going to be able to serve house arrest or actually has to go to jail. I don't know. But the other half of the punishment was that she cannot run for office for 5 years. And so I have a couple of questions. First, will this, you know, this, what is that word? Well, will the fact that she's been hamstrung, I think that's the word I'm looking for, will the hamstringing of Le Pen through, a jail sentence and an inability to run for 5 years, will that effectively shut down France's far right party? So, what will happen as a result of Le Pen being convicted and sentenced? What will happen to France's far right party? And how about we let Spirit take the wheel on all the cards? Here's our all important center card. We're asking, will Marine Le Pen's uh, removal from the scene, so to speak, what effect will that have on her party, the far right? So these are interesting. So we have the rider, the mice, the child, the fox, and the mountain. I'm going to say that for all intents and purposes, yes, it will absolutely affect the ability of that far right party to live and breathe um, and you know, have an effect on France's election. So this is the rider is a card for a message. What is the message being sent to this far right party? I can mirror it with the last card. You're stopped in your tracks. Let me say, though, the mountain is not one of those cards that means stopped for all time, right? That would be like the cross or the coffin, maybe. This is temporary, but I mean it could be made permanent depending on how France conducts itself moving forward. But for now, she and the right wing have been stopped in their tracks. Again, the message is, you know, be afraid because we're coming for you. You think you're slick with your embezzlement and your racist ideology, but you got. And then the center card, which I'm always saying is the most important card, it's been diminished. It's been made small, brought low, taken down. So that's terrific news for France. Staying in France for a moment, apparently 47 and his, operation have sent notification to French companies that if they want to do business with American entities, they have to fill out a form. Okay, you know, that's nothing unusual, except for what the form says. The form requires them to indicate that they will get rid of whatever their equivalent is of DEI initiatives. Remember the term diversity, equity, and inclusion. And the threat is if they don't agree to get rid of any sort of diversity, equity, and inclusion policies that they have, they can't do business with American companies. Well, there's been a response from the government to that, and the response is, "What are you talking about? We're not going to do that. That's not going to happen." And I mean, I listen, we have to look to France for a lot of inspiration. I'm always talking about the French Revolution. We need to look to France for that, for how to do it. I think I mentioned before that there was um, they wanted to give people a pay cut or increase the number of hours that people worked and whatever. And there was they called a general strike. And I mean, everybody participated and they had to take that proposal off the table. The French know how to do revolution. It's in their blood. I mean, if you watched the Olympics, the opening and closing ceremonies, if you did whatever you didn't know before, you shouldn't have known after that. The French are not going to play. Makes me want to move there, to tell you the truth. Not that they don't have their own issues, but now that we've safely tucked Marine Le Pen away, anybody in France want to sponsor me to for a long-term visit until our nightmare is over? Because I am willing. Et je parle un peu de français. So, okay. Uh, what I'm asking is what what will happen uh, with French business insofar as this rule will not be complied with by French companies. And maybe there will be companies that comply. I don't know. I just want to see what is going to be the response. So I think that I'm going to use the letter, and the letter will stand for this decree that said you have to sign this form or else we won't do business with you. So let's see. I mean, I guess it means that they can't get government contracts or something, whatever. Let's look for the letter and that will stand, and then the cards around it will stand for um, what France's reaction will be. France has already said, yeah, we're not listening to you. That's ridiculous. We believe in fraternité, égalité, liberté. We're not going in your direction. Okay. Okay. So we have the coffin. I feel it's very interesting that this is the first card. Child, letter, stork, young woman. I think that this is saying halt, stop, cease and desist. You don't tell us how to run our companies, especially according to your um, unfortunate rules. Yeah, we're not doing that. Um, It means that there will be less business done between France and the US because France will not want their companies to comply. Uh, Here is the decree that they were given, the form they have to fill out. But the final two cards are interesting. We have the stork and we have the young woman. And I don't know, I just feel like the stork is about positive change. I think that the more ways and from, the more directions we see resistance against 47's autocracy and cruelty, the more directions we see opposition to it, the more it will embolden people um, in new ways. Think of this as France. France is saying, hell no. So I think that's a good thing. I mean, obviously everybody's hurt in the short term, but in the long term, you have to say no to a tyrant, right? Entertainment purposes only. Um, okay, what else? Oh, a word about revolution. I had a viewer who asked me, well, what is that going to look like? What should we be doing? Uh, and then another viewer, probably in response, sent me something that I thought was terrific. And I'm going to read it because I screenshot it so that I could find it quickly. And it's on the subject of revolution. The author of this is John Adams. So it's a quote. But what do we mean by the American Revolution? Do we mean the American War? The revolution was effected before the war commenced. The revolution was in the minds and hearts of the people, a change in their religious sentiments, of their duties and obligations. This radical change in the principles, opinions, sentiments, and affections of the people was the real American Revolution. This is John Adams saying this, the abolitionist, by the way, John Adams. And so Edie Folta 9494 is the one who sent me this. Thank you so, so much. Because that is true. When I say revolution, I feel like everybody's thinking, do I need to get my pitchfork? I mean, do I need to get a flag? What do I need to do? And as John Adams has told us, this is about a waking up. So first of all, you have to decide you want to be woke, that you don't subscribe to Trump's intention that America will be woke no more. Uh, you have to have the hard conversations. You have to listen to words that are not easy to listen to. You know, Maybe some of those words are mine. But if you want a date certain for when the revolution will come and a date certain for how long it'll last and when it'll end, you're not looking at this the right way. You're looking at this from a position of, I'm going to say, real entitlement, assuming that, you know, there's a beginning and there's an end, and the end should come when you're sick of whatever it is that's going on. That's not how this works. Like my brother says, we are promised the war, not the win. And revolution starts in the minds and the hearts of the populace. The last thing that happens is the storming of the Bastille. So one of the things that John Adams mentions is a shift in religious sentiments, and I think this is interesting. And I again recommend that you go watch my Sunday conversation with Teresa Reed because we did touch on this. But a viewer asked me to look at the minister. He's a Pentecostal minister, and if you don't know, Pentecostal is it's not mainstream. I wouldn't call it. Christianity. But anyway, there's a minister in Baltimore. His name is Marvin Sapp, and he wanted to raise $40,000 from his congregation. So the story goes that what he did was he asked everyone in the congregation to cough up 20 bucks. And he put guards on the doors and refused to let people out of the sanctuary, we'll call it, until they had coughed up 20 bucks. Well, this became publicized, and now he's in trouble, et cetera, et cetera. And so the question that the viewer asked was, um, will there be a rift between the Black community and the Black church? Now, there are lots of denominations of Black church. So, there's the Pentecostals, there's the Baptist, there's the AME, African Methodist Episcopal. I mean, there's a lot of different denominations of where Black people congregate for church. Um, and a lot of them, on the one hand, will subscribe, as Marvin Sapp does, to this prosperity gospel, which is you give me money and God will bless you. That the wealthier you make your minister, and you'll see it on my back with my clothes or my fancy cars or the home I live in, the more you subsidize that lifestyle, the more God will bless you. Now, this is not limited to Black people, by the way. We have that woman, what is her name? She is head of 47's religious team, Paula White. Paula White. She has a job in the administration. You and I are paying her salary, and she is grifting, which is against the law. So this is not a race thing. But anyway, then you have that school, that sort of prosperity gospel thing. And then you have the activist Black churches, I mean, I'll put Reverend Al, for example, in there, or Reverend Barber. These are people who understand uh, the gospel as something that, we're meant to feed the poor and help the suffering and get rid of the tyrants. So I think that, the question was, will there be a rift? I think with Pluto and Aquarius, that there will be a big shift in how people perceive their relationship um, to to God, to Source, to their higher self, to the universe. And I think that religions that do not respect the fact that they should not be the gatekeepers between people and their God will suffer, yes. But I do think that there are other denominations which do understand this and who are not so top heavy, top down, hierarchically heavy, and they may well survive. But church, as we've known it traditionally in the past, from Catholicism to uh, every form of Protestantism you can think of, will be undergoing a shift. And that shift could be, in the end, a demise, that people will just say, yeah, no, I'm not here for this. Uh, Christian nationalism obviously has reared its ugly head. Someone asked me to look at a thing called the Seven Mountain Mandate. And this is also a Christian nationalist agenda that is followed by Project 2025. And the theory is that there are 7 areas of life that they need to get control of, and then Christ can come again. Uh, I mean, I think all of these, again, top down, patriarchal, religious expressions are, I think their days are numbered. But anyway, what I'm looking at is the Black church, and it's what is the future of the Black church? And again, remember Marvin Sapp and his prosperity gospel thing, they're in bed with Paula White and her prosperity gospel um, grift. That is not the sum total of the Black church by any stretch of the imagination. Black churches are where you will hear, that's where they had souls to the polls, right? Where on Sundays, people would go to church and then they would go and vote or register to vote. So Black churches have always been politically active, but like every church, there have always also been quarters of it that were, griftish. So let's see what will happen with the Black church. And I'll use the tower because that can symbolize that the structure of the Black church. Deep in the deck. Okay, so this will stand for the Black church. We're looking at the future of the Black church. And by the way, there are going to be white viewers who are going to say things to me like, what do you mean the Black church? Isn't church just church? Martin Luther King himself said that 10 o'clock on a Sunday morning is the most segregated hour in America. And I dare you to prove me different. This was a Black viewer who asked this question about the Black church. And so that's why I'm responding to this question. But, part of being woke is not being under any illusion about the fact that Blacks and whites, as a rule, worship separately. And that is also one of those, um, residual effects of our original sin. But anyway, key, clover, tower, anchor, and scales. I love these cards for this question because what it means is that the answer, the answer lies in the church, if they're not already there, and a ton of Black churches are already there. But to whatever extent they're not already there, quick, fast, and in a hurry, they need to get to the point where they understand that their continued life and success is contingent upon how grounded they are in the quest for justice. Not grounded in how much money you can put in the minister's pocket, but grounded in justice. Martin Luther King, Jesse Jackson, William Barber, Reverend Al. I mean, there's a tradition of this. So if they want to continue being a viable entity in people's lives, they have to thirst after justice, thirst after righteousness. And I think that a big segment of that, of the Black church will continue to do that. Absolutely. And I do think that people like Marvin Sapp will go the way of the dodo bird. And I hope Paula White follows him. Okay. So that's that. Now, two more, fewer questions. I understand that hope springs eternal. And so I am going to, look at this. The question was, Will Kamala run in 2028? My opinion is no. Like, why? For what? 52% of white women didn't want her in the first place. So why would she run again? But that's just my opinion. Let's see what the cards say, right? Okay. Will Kamala Harris run in 2028? Why has she been so quiet? Because people made clear they didn't want her, A, and B, I think she is in danger. I think 47's got you know, put a hit out on her, entertainment purposes only. So I think she's worried for her own safety, as she should be, as are all the rest of us, which is why, again, Black people on Saturday, stay home. You can put the TV on and watch everybody out there in the demonstration. And I want to look at that too, how that's going to go, but not today. I'll look at that closer to Saturday. Okay, will Kamala run in 28? I think I'll let Spirit choose all these cards. It's interesting. We have the moon, we have the sun, we have fish in the middle, we have the fox, and we have the anchor. So Spirit may disagree with me. This is the card for reputation. And while there are a lot of people saying, where is she? How come she's not out here like Tim Waltz is, fighting the good fight? How come she's not out here like AOC? And I mean, give the woman a break. But anyway, this is the card for reputation. The sun is the best card in the deck. I think if she has a large enough war chest, because this is the card for money, um, that she could run a smarter race and win it. But I will also say that not only is this the card for money, this is the card for emotion. She was as devastated by her loss, well, obviously more than a lot of us were. And so, I don't think she's plotting and planning this yet. Uh, I think we will see her come out again in some capacity, whether she runs as governor of California, and there are governors who've run for president, obviously, and won, Reagan for one. So it could happen that she could run for governor, but uh, I think right now, you know, the goal is to sort of get herself anchored. I thought I was going to be the president. I was the vice president. Then this whole thing happened. And now we've got this idiot, sorry, YouTube, but you know what I mean, in there. And so she's asking the question, who am I? What am I meant to do? You know, to be anchored is to be solid and sure. And I don't think she quite is yet. She's trying to be smart about the decision she makes. Uh, these two mirror together. She wants to make the best possible decision. So one of the things I think of when I think of this fox, is that he sort of really assesses the lay of the land. I know here his eyes are closed, but that's because he's sleeping. Sometimes he wakes up and when he's awake, he's really taking the temperature of things. And I think she will continue to take the temperature of things, feel out the climate, and then decide based on both her war chest and the way emotions are running at the time, when it's time to throw your hat in the ring. At that point, she'll decide what to do. Now, also, I know that there's 47 has been running his mouth about a third term, and apparently somebody uh, introduced an amendment to that effect that he be allowed to do a third term. And some of the hypothesis is that that they would run J.D. Vance as president. And so J.D. Vance would then win and then hand it off back to 47. Okay. Just like it is a pipe dream that Biden and Harris are going to come save us, because they're not, it is a Republican pipe dream that Trump will have a third term. I'm telling you, that will not happen. But, that's me. Let's see what the cards say. Will 47 have a third term? Let me tell you something. I don't see him finishing his second term. So I don't know where he's going to get a third term from. But I will look because I was asked. Third term for 47. Okay, here he is. Uh, I can mirror this first card with this card. He just wants people he wants to keep people guessing. He just throws that out. It's like red meat. So he throws it out. It's kind of, again, what is that other thing that uh, um, rage something? Like he's trying rage bait, you know, make Black people mad by disappearing them from all of the records of everything and throw them out of jobs, etc. And that's rage bait. That's supposed to make us go out into the street. We're not going out in the street. But anyway, this is also bait. It's red meat. Um, maybe we'll have this monarchy with him. He doesn't know what he's talking about. And and if I didn't think that this told us he doesn't know what he's talking about, look at the second card. He is already befuddled and confused. By third term time, 28, he will have long been out of the White House, in my opinion, and the opinion of many of my sister and brother readers, and not with the program, if you know what I mean. If he is on this side of the earth. Uh, we have the center card. This is the young man card. Maybe this is Vance. I don't see Vance, if he were to run, giving it back to 47 if he were to win. And I don't think that Vance would win, by the way. Uh, Women will see to that this time around because maybe they learned their lesson. I hope. Uh, yeah, there will be no third term for this man. So, and again, I don't know if he'll be living and breathing. So that's that. Okay, everybody, I will see you again soon. I will look at the April 5th day of protest later in the week. I don't want to look at it quite yet because, again, energy is mutable. Um, People have asked me how they can get an appointment with me, how they can access my book and my deck. People have asked me if I have a course. So all of that information, if you hit the more button, which is found underneath every one of my videos, you can get the information for all of that. Yes, I have a course. It's an evergreen course of videos that I've put up that will teach you, how to read Lenormand. Uh, yes, my deck is available. The book is available wherever books are sold and obviously through Amazon. And in order to get an appointment with me, I'm booked pretty solidly into June. But, there's a email for how you contact me for that. So anyway, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate all of you. And I know that some of you have said I'm hard to watch, but you watch anyway. Good for you. I'm happy to have you here. Thank you to everyone who sent me kind messages, encouraging messages. I really appreciate it. And I'm here for the long haul. So take care. Bye bye.